highlights in the music and be strategic that way too. So you're not doing your big trick on a 3 where it's not having this momentum or a build up to it choreographically. It's just kind of a putter out or like talking your sentence all in monotone. Yeah. So I'm going to play music of a waltz, and let's just see if we can count out 1 to beat and then where the phrasing would begin. So intro ends, phrase begins. You hear that one? That one's very short. So you had 2 measures to catch beat and dance, and then phrasing began on that 3rd. I'll give you another example. We'll stay with the same dance for this just to keep it easy. So there's our downbeat. Right? And 1, 2, 3, those are our regular beats. 8, 2, 3, there's our phrase and our start point. Yeah, does that make sense? Raise your hand if you're good or thumbs up. Cool. So more just kind of clarifying that. If that could go also, I think a really big challenging one is, I'll give you this song in rhythm just to throw it out. Raise your hand if it's a rumba. And raise your hand if it's a cha-cha. Yeah, I'm a rumba camp. So in that song especially is a great example because chas and rumbas do that a lot, where depending on what you're listening to in the score, you can hear different aspects of it. So in those cases, if it's a social setting, you just want to make sure that you're really clear that you're matching your interpretation of that with the music. Maybe look around if you're the only one, maybe you're not hearing something as well as you could, and see if you can listen back in. But lots of those examples too on the rhythm side. All right, no bingos yet, right? Just starting, good. Okay, frame was another one that folks threw out, like concepts people said were not being left enough, gapping. So frame, and I'm also going to put head position in this category together too. So if we're talking about frame, we said in previous weeks that we kind of have that sense of our hands being extended out from the rib cage, right? And that we have this slope of the arm coming down. So we don't want to see a frame where we've got an elevation of the upper arm or a drop of the upper arm, but rather that there is this nice, cascading feeling to what's happening from shoulder to elbow. If we need to make an adaptation from there, we can, but see again that it shouldn't be that the whole arm would come up, right? I could just tip from this point to a different place. Okay. Really, really important on that you're not too high or too low. If you're trying to match different heights of a partner, this is where it gets tricky. We still want to always adapt as best we can, but without creating errors. So anytime that if I'm a tall lead and I've got a very short female, I would be lowering my hands and creating that adaptation, but that doesn't mean that I'm dropping that space. So that's the other really important aspect of frame, is feeling like there's a volume and a dimension around the body that's sustained always. So nothing we do is ever kind of coming in like, we're not waltzing with our wings. We're not trying to lead by moving our arms. We're getting that nice sense of elbow to elbow extension that really has almost a feeling for me of being an infinite oppositional pull out into space. on my side planes. All right. And then another one I really want to talk about with frame aspect of it is where your hand placement goes. So I really often see that we have like a hand on a follows back where it's way up on the shoulder here. And we want to make sure that that's always still following that angle. So we've got that nice downward line happening, and we're always supporting the base of that shoulder blade and really almost feeling like we're connecting along where we would imagine like a bra line would be. It's a good marker. Hopefully that doesn't offend anyone, but it's just a realistic aspect of it. So really keeping that clear and not letting any sort of twist or open hand happen. And same if I'm a follow, as I'm placing my hand on my partner's arm, that I'm not hanging on, right? I'm not like wrapping around, gripping, not holding their shoulder. Again, this is really hard without a partner because you're like, can I imagine this? But I'm not in my frame doing this, right? So I always feel like if I could keep this line right out through my forearm as a follow, that's the energetic and connection point that I want to feed into my partner. So that's going to just cup right around the bicep. And then I can use that point to be really active in that funneling concept we've discussed in previous weeks too. So that's frame. But we could talk about frame all semester, but common mistakes in a nutshell. Questions? No? Okay. Head position related to frame. Anybody remember what we said about head positions? How far left, how far right are we trying to be aware of where we're at? Like if I show you this, is this correct as a follow? Okay, I see lots of shaking heads. Is this correct? Should see more shaking heads, right? No. So we want to be that 1/8 left or right, depending on what our positioning is. We don't ever want to compress or drop the headline. So I feel like as followers, especially, one of the first mistakes we hear about is, oh, you weren't left enough. You need to turn your head more left. No, you probably don't need to turn your head more left. You probably need to dance your back and that funneling concept with a lot more clarity. So that's coming again from that sway, postural sway coming into play, and then letting that positive side start to almost extend your head more, but it's not me moving my head, right? It's this optical illusion that head extension or being left comes from the actual head when it's really coming from the connection point of frame up through the spine and just letting the head kind of be the still point. So if you're a beginner, you don't need to get too weighted down in some of those concepts. But if you've been with us this semester, or you can still access maybe the recordings, we did break down some of that stuff pretty deeply to talk about where it's coming from and what that means. But again, basic level, just stay 1/8, right? 1/8 left, 1/8 right, and not crunched or turned all the way left and right like you're looking over your shoulder at someone. Go on. All right, heel leads, again, going on, common mistake. When I say heel leads, we're referencing our smooth and standard dances here. So not taking a tango walk that goes toe first, right? But really making sure that we've grounded through the legs and we're getting extension out. That moves us and rolls us through the foot, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe. So stand up and just take a little walk around your space. Any which way, nothing right or wrong. And notice, do you use heel or toe? What's your natural step? Okay, whatever you're doing, if you're doing heel, do toes. And if you're a toe walker, go back to doing a heel walk. And just feel the difference of where that puts your weight and your spine. Good. You feel like you got a sense of that. So what is the natural choice? Heels? Thumbs up for heels?
Heels.
Yeah, exactly. So if we just think that as ballroom dancers, we are taking our base as pedestrians and we're letting that feed into what our dancing starts to work with. That's always a great way of just thinking, oh, did I just start to maybe exaggerate my walk rather than did I put so much pre-constructed stuff on top of something that's just a common action? Okay, 4 down. What do we think? No bingos yet?
Getting close.
Getting close. Anybody else close?
Not quite yet, but.
All right. Going to the rhythm side of things. Hip action. Any ideas about common mistakes around hip action? And again, think very basic.
Like sticking your butt out to the side and breaking your sides.
Yeah, breaking the sides. That's a great one. I think the probably easiest way I can think to say it to you is like wiggling my hips is hip action. And it's not, right? If we go back to the first week when we started breaking down, oh yeah, we have this toe heel stand idea, toe heel stand. That hip action is coming from what we're doing in our legs and our feet. And it's not just I'm going to wiggle everything in my middle and see and hope that I land on something. So again, I'm going to just flip that on you from a judging perspective. Sometimes less is more. And that we want to see posture. We want to see partnership. This is partner dancing. We want to see you on time. We want to see the conquering of those basic elements. And when that's good, then you start adding your technique in. So from the very beginning, common mistakes, you don't have to do all the wiggling, right? You start to work on your feet. You work on finding connection and really digging into some of those other parts and just fight the urge to wiggle away. Yeah? You with me? Who was a wiggler too? Is anybody an excessive wiggler? Names. Thanks for the reality. I was too at one point. Okay, poor posture, next. I think this is maybe the most self-explanatory one, yet not. So again, diving back into some of the content we did earlier this semester, when we're talking about what is posture, when we're looking specifically at like a smooth standard approach, we want that opposition. So we want to feel grounded from our waist down and elevated from our waist up. And we want to make sure that we have that zigzag balance thing happening. So I'm not trying to pull my abdominals in and suck everything up and in as much as I can and then expect myself to be able to move well with this locked sensation. We're just trying to create elevation of the spine and use our natural curvatures and our bends. So with that zigzag idea, we had toes, knees, ribs being on a frontal plane, and heels, hips, base of the head on a back plane. And we just talked about feeling that dimension there. So everything is, again, waist down, anchoring, waist up, lifting, but dimensional front and back, okay? When we're thinking of a rhythm common mistake of posture, I think the most obvious one is to think that, again, we've got to like pick up the ribs off of the hips. And so there gets to be like this extreme holding in the diaphragm and stuff. I feel like I see a lot of people out of breath really fast because of that. And it's really the same thing. You want to still feel like you've got a sense of ground, but in rhythm, you're going to have a little bit more of that feeling maybe side to side in your body, right? Instead of maybe a universal down up, okay? We're never trying to fight our natural bodies and our natural capabilities. We're just trying to keep enhancing what we can offer to ourselves. Posture. Okay, no one yet? Remember, shout if you get one. Okay, this is geared maybe towards intermediate advanced again, but too much drama. And whether it is a social dance or a competitive arena, there is something to be said for just not letting yourself get flustered. If you're upset with something that happened between you and the person you're dancing with, kind of being the professional base person to just say, okay, letting that go. We see a lot of reactions to things that maybe don't warrant that reaction and kind of give that like drama focused perspective. Another version of this that is a personal pet peeve as it would relate to competition is getting too over exaggerated in our facial expressions and thinking every action has to have a facial expression. Or like I have to always be doing, you know, something really grand when I open up the arm, you know, it always has to be this huge thing. And sometimes it's again, like we said before, phrasing. So when do I want to show my highlight? But every time and every beat should not be my highlight maxed output. So just something to think about. It's really good to see people being natural and expressive. This is an art form. I want to see your interpretation and your way of feeling it. I think I have never met a dancer that hasn't said, I love watching dance because it makes me want to dance. And that's really the hallmark of when someone's really doing a good job, for me as well. Okay, related to too much drama, we have picking your bits. I not need to say more about that. Social, competitive, anything. Don't pick your wedgie. Don't pick out your costume. Pick your nose, all those things. We all kind of end up making those downfalls. So, same with wrong attire. So even for class, it's great to have fashion and things going, but really awesome more so if we can see your body and help you. So wearing a big baggy sweatshirt might not be a great idea on a rhythm technique day to really get the feedback and the input that you need from yourself about what you're at and your learning. If it's competitive too, same, you want to dress for your body type, flatter yourself. And another one I'll say is I really appreciate when I have a partner that thinks about me. So as a follower, I know, like we said earlier, that partner is always going to have his hand right up in my armpit area. So if I'm at a social dance, it might be really nice if I had some fabric there, right? So as they start to sweat, I'm not putting them in an uncomfortable position. So it is personal preference for a lot of people, and you've got to know your setting and know what works for your body and your situation. But I think as a partnership sport, and often with rotating partners, it's always appreciated that you have consideration of those aspects. All right, going on. Thumbs up, still good? Okay, are you bored? No, good? Okay. Lack of partnership. Okay, any ideas about what that could mean? Throw 'em out.
Dancing with your partner?
Not dancing with your partner, yep, most basic. What about the people who like walk onto the floor with someone or just say, want to dance and then leave them behind? Like kind of all those etiquette pieces where if you're asking someone to dance or you've chosen to dance together, you walk out together, you walk off together. You know, if you need to switch places in the middle, that there's a really nice, thoughtful way that that's happened. When we look at actual dancing, again, baseline, most basic application that I look for that tells me whether it's partnership based or not is simply setting up your tracks. So we know that if we are coming into dance with a partner, we are never toe to toe. The leader is more or less the stationary piece. And as the follower is invited in by the leader, it is the follower's job to make sure that they are offset. So as a couple, we always have 4 tracks, right? So I would have my 2 tracks here, and my feet for my follower would be here, right? So kind of going on into that next placement. I'll show you with shoes, maybe. All right. So we've got a way that I'm never going to step on feet. I'm always going to have that ability to go through my partner's spine the correct way, but without stepping on their toes, okay? And that's whether we're going forward or back, right? Or whether we're lead or follow. Now, whose job is it to maintain that? Thumbs up for follows. Thumbs up for leads. Ooh, perplexed. Leads. Actually, it's follows. So follows out there. Do I have people who are dancing mainly follow? Yeah. Your job is to make sure that you start left enough that you're on those tracks and that you stay there. And if you're getting constantly, a push or pressure out of that alignment, then you need to have a conversation if it's someone you dance with a lot. But adjust. If you're doing a rotating figure, you get a great opportunity to kind of extend and get yourself back into that space to keep making sure that everything is flowing well that way. All right, if we start looking at how we would discuss lack of partnership when we get more intermediate advanced, there's lots of aspects to that. So we're not going to kind of go down that road today, but we could still look at pro tapes and see that 4 tracks aren't always maintained. So really important basic concepts. Okay, next one, improper shaping. Anybody want to throw an idea about common mistake of improper shaping?
Breaking your sides.
Breaking your sides. Or breaking your back, right?
Spines in general.
Again, followers like coming in and thinking, oh, I'm in a great frame. And all you did is just compress that lower back and put yourself into this horrible place where you're going to need an ice pack the next day, right? Or breaking the sides, coming in thinking, okay, I'm going to extend that side of my partner and maybe I drop here. So shaping is coming from where? Head, shoulders, knees, toes, ears.
Your
Brave souls. Not Kai. You can't answer this time, Kai. Someone else.
Could I say shoulders?
Shoulders. Yes, but I'm going to give you the wrong buzzer.
Okay.
Where? Base, hips, right? Or legs, using the floor. So if we're talking about a smooth shape, it's again coming from sway that exaggerates into a position, right? I'm not just breaking a side into position, I'm putting those 2 together. If I'm in rhythm when I'm going to align, say even if I'm just taking a nice back rock, again, I've used the floor, I've gotten my hip underneath me in a way that I could lift, and then have some choices about where that line is going to go next, okay? So that's probably a more intermediate advanced topic. If you're a beginner, that might be one to just bookmark for a later date. No bingos yet? Okay, I thought we'd have 1 or 2 by now. Let's keep going. Flailing arms.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Oh, Abe's got it. Okay.
Bingo.
Who else was that? Jenna?
I also got one.
That was
Cool.
just floppy arms.
Floppy arms. It says a lot about that topic, right? So, what do I mean by flailing arms? Okay, I gotta like try to not laugh at myself doing this because I'm gonna try to really exaggerate it. So, right? Does this happen? All the time, right? What about smooth? Twinkle, right? Or back to backs, excuse me. Throw it away, right? So, I know you should be laughing at that, by the way. If you're not, please laugh at me because it should look ridiculous. I am exaggerating it. But sometimes it's really not far off that it's something that's just completely pulling the whole body out of position and out of partnership. So if we're doing like a rhythm, why do our arms move with us? Because there's like this natural flow in a figure eight pattern, right? Not because they're doing their own thing. That makes sense? So you should be completely relative to how much action you are doing, right? If you're really killing it on a cha and you're in a side-by-side or a open facing, that's one thing. If you're really just starting out with like a calm rumba, there might not be a lot of arms, or it might be something that it makes more sense to flow through with. So we really want that to be connected to where we're at in terms of what we're trying to show. Both, again, back to our first point. Is it on beat? Is it connected to the rhythm of the dance? Okay, so another common one with that, let's take a burst. So this is something we would do, again, opening bronze, a bursting action. Do I just go 1, 2, 3, bend the waltz? Right, you can see the flail factor there. We should still see 1, the arm should be at the height when the music is at the height. The arm should lower when the music lowers. 3. So there's a coordination of 1, 2, 3, and it's still connected and moving from my body and not just as a separate entity. Again, we could break that down forever, but we did talk about arms pretty intensely, and we went through kind of finding some of those endpoints to help you feel like it wasn't such a mystery to know where you're stopping and how to mark that for your own body. So also a topic you can go back and re-pull some stuff up with if you are interested in learning more. Okay, we're gonna keep going. So anybody else who gets bingo, if Jenna, Ames, or Kai gets another one, throw it out too. Okay, Floorcraft. Whose job is this? Leads, thumbs up.
I got
Yeah,
another bingo, by the way.
What? Yeah,
I
we
got
got
a bingo.
Yay on Floorcraft.
Ooh, I also got a second one.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I was gonna try to mail out gift cards or something, but we might not be doing that now. We're gonna have so many bingos. That's great though. So Floorcraft, we said leads mostly. Responsible. Okay. Yeah. I'd say if it's about 90% leads, followers, I'd say your 10% is in you still need to notify. Like I'd like to give a nice gentle squeeze on the arm. If there's something I don't think my partner has seen, right? Don't let them just slam or walk into someone. Try to give a coordinated but kind message there. But leads, yeah, Floorcraft is pretty much one of your primary skills. And what do we mean by Floorcraft? What falls into that greater concept? Go, Ames.
Avoiding obstacles and planning out your steps so that you're at the right angle, so that you don't get stuck in a corner or something like that. You're going on the path on the track.
Exactly. So I think we did it a little bit when we did reverse turn, where we said, okay, turn your sheet over, and what's the pathway of a reverse turn? You know, is it a straight line, or did it have like, you know, a changed shape to it? And most figures do not just go down line of dance and down line of dance, right? There's a lot of arcing and curving, and very much so using the angles, whether that's diagonal center or diagonal wall, or you're against angles. So Leaders, I highly encourage you, if you want to really challenge yourself and you've got a routine that you use, whether it's social or competitive, to draw out your bird's eye view map and know where you're trying to go to start, and then know where your hinge points are. So if we're looking at diagonal center, right? Well, diagonal center can mean a lot of different expressions, right? I could really be at any of these angles. So if I really need to sharpen it, I can go really sharp and I'm still going to be more or less going the right way. If I need to get around someone there, I just go a little bit and I can still then lead and facilitate the rotation continuing, but I know where to do that instead of trying to crank it through every step all the time. So really important, leaders, I think, to know where those points are for you. And if you're just dancing socially, it's the exact same. And if anything, I'd say almost more important, because you're going to be in much more conflict on a social floor generally than you almost are on a competitive. So keep that in mind. A big one. What else is it? Floorcraft, kind of one other thing I think people miss. Where do we want to go around the floor? Like, we know line of dance, right? Hopefully you do. This should be one answer. Line of dance counterclockwise, clockwise. Everyone should be
Counterclockwise.
yeah, exactly. I'm like seeing a lot of people look at me a little scared there. So always going counterclockwise. But if we again think of the floor, so if this is my whole dance floor here, like let's say I'm a miniature in that, and I know I'm going my line of dance short and my long and my short and my long, right? Notice that I'm never going into that middle territory. So oftentimes we see like, okay, I did something and then I kind of got into the middle, and now you're at risk for being hit from people on the other side making the same error. So I'd like to kind of feel like I've got lanes here. Like if I think of a fast lane and a slow lane for each wall that I'm on, if I'm really advanced and I'm doing like continuity steps the whole time, I'm in the fast lane. If I am first day of dance, just learn my foxtrot doing a box or a basic, I'm in the slow lane towards that middle, but no one is ever in the middle. That makes sense? Have you heard that before? Not going in the middle? Okay. I say that, and then when I danced professionally, we had one start of our routines that started in the middle of the floor for that whole reason, to have everyone go like, what are they doing? Like total shock factor. And a lot of my students came back to me and said, but you told us we could never do that. So, you know, there is a point, but it's generally going to be more of a choreographic choice than a functional choice. Okay, going on. Footwork errors. And here I'm thinking especially like rhythm, where again, we can see like, you know, doing the whole thing on your toes. I'm just going to kind of stick with the rumba box because it's a little easier. Even if you have a heel on, we should just see that there's a moment where your weight would shift into your heel. So it's not, again, a forward weighted feeling. If we're looking at a very basic action, we've done this term on a smooth perspective as well, a foxtrot basic, very common to see 2 flat feet there. So if it's your first day dancing, great, that would still be a win to me. If you've taken a class and you know better, yeah, heel, heel, toe, toe, heel. Start working on cushioning through those feet and not letting it be something that throws the rest of your body off. Okay, going on to the next one. CBM,
Bingo.
coming from the hip versus the body. Which would be right? Where does it come from?
Bingo.
Bingo. Cool.
Bingo. I also missed one earlier because I forgot which ones were free spaces.
Okay, who's talking now?
Jeanette.
Jeanette, okay. Yeah, if we've kind of forgotten about the free spaces. All right, cool, yay. Hopefully it's a fun way to mark this. CBM, raise your hand if you think it comes from your body, as in your torso body. Raise your hand if you think it comes from your base or hip. Good. You should have your hand in the air, right? Why? So get up again, take a walk again. Just walk around. Don't think about it too much. If you have roommates, this is where they start asking you if you're crazy, right? And just notice, where does your oppositional walk come from? I mean, we most often feel it in our arms, but where does it come from? Is it starting in my arms? Or where is it starting in the body? Yeah, hips, right? So hips, and I'd say up to about, we would call lumbar dorsal hinge for any of you guys who are more specific. You're kind of getting that whole region, right? That base of the spine of the torso that should be rotating you and setting up any oppositional action, not just the torso turning and the arms connecting, and my center still going a whole nother direction. So a really important one to work on, that's coming from the right place. Again, we did talk about that previous classes, so there's probably content on that as well. Any questions on that one? That's like a short synopsis, but that's a very loaded concept too. Okay, using the arms to connect to partner versus spine. I think we all know this one, like you see the iron grip versus moving just with spine and responding just with spine instead of holding all the focus into the arm or the exterior points that you're connected to your partner. This is, again, one that's really super common for people who are brand new, because I think we have the urge to not step on our partner. So before we're confident on the tracks, what do? We kind of lock the arms so that we're not going to step on anyone or get stepped on. So it's just important to remember as we're working through that beginner stage that that might be a starting defense mechanism, but it does need to drop off pretty quickly to not get some bad habits in. Okay, we're getting towards the end. I'm like running out of time here. So steps too big in rhythm and Latin. Do we all know what I mean by that? Okay, yeah. Cha-cha, 2, 3. Cha-cha-cha, 2, 3, 4, and 1. And now I'm off time, right? One bad side, 4 and 1, and you're off time. What about this one? What dance am I in?
Swing.
Right, a very awkward, large version of swing. So keep in mind, rhythm Latin is more or less under your body. You're gonna feel like you're just in that little square most of the time. Don't let it get too carried away. Okay, next couple, so our last 3 are geared more towards my intermediate advanced crowd. So bolero, do I have any bolero dancers in class tonight? 2, 3, 4, awesome. Had to say bolero is probably my favorite rhythm dance, so yay. And we do the basic. Here's an example. See if you can spot it. Any ideas of where the mistake is? Right? Feet, ankles. So especially, I see so many people who are starting out in bolero and they do a great job here, and then they forget about this leg. And then this is just like this little dead fish that just drags along. And then same, forget about this leg. right? These should be beautifully pointed and articulated ankles and feet. So as you're going from the side step, it's not just the starting point, but it's the ending point, right? That can come up same. The reach, it should have some connection and some flow of the feet to it. It's not just a dead fish weight change there. So it could go under footwork, but I'm singling it out because it's an add and action. I really feel like from dancing at years, it's not like other things where it's necessarily coming from the floor. It's something we sort of have to put on top and be really layered with, that it is a separate action or something we're exaggerating more. Cool, thumbs up. Any more bingos? No? Okay. Next is développés. So probably getting more towards upper bronze or silver with this one, where if I'm a follower, gotten put on that foot, doing a développé, and then we would, continue back out. So a développé is not a ninja karate kick, for one, right? It isn't trying to go this way. It's not a straight leg lift, okay? It's coming from a ballet technique where the leg finds itself on the ankle and then it comes up to the knee and then the knee lifts and the foot extends. So there is this circularity to that action. So as you arrive on the foot, there should be this release and this collection that's coming together and then rising, right? That should match your musical rise. And then the développé, okay? What about leading and following within that? Common mistake. Again, very well-intentioned common mistake, right? I feel like it's the brace and hold where you get like the push onto the foot from the leader and then they're like, I'm bracing against that so you don't pull us both over, right? Instead, what do we want to see from our leaders? We're still both arriving on the foot together. Our leaders would still go through vertical. They would still shape from the sway of the hip. So if anything, they're more positive towards the partner at the top of the développé than they are anchored away. Why? Because we have to get out of it, right? We have to move on at some point. If we're anchored here, where are we moving to? Nowhere, right? We have to pull back to center and then we have to reset and go. We don't have time for that. The figures don't lay that space out for us. They're telling us max the line and be right on to the next step. So it's again, being clear about which foot you're on and setting up that you would do the exact same entrance exit as if you were doing almost a basic hesitation. So I like to think that développé is just a very, very built up version of that circularity and leg rhythm there. Cool. So followers, you got lots to work on that. If you want height, where does the height come from? Does it come from here? Clearly not, right? Your sway again. So as you're getting onto that foot and you're coming up, there's vertical, you can sway that line to get a nice big extension through, okay? And that could, again, I could shape it, I can be responsive here because it's still connected to my standing leg, okay? Okay, last and not least, not having multiple starts. Anyone know what I mean by that?
Having to stop and go again.
Yeah, very common. And this really does apply a lot to social dancers too. Like you learned a pattern in your class and that's all you can do, right? So every time you get on the floor, no matter what, you start in the same place, you dance the same pattern. Well, that's all great, but it doesn't really work that way. So even if that one pattern is all you know, you need to say, where else can I go on the floor? If that corner's crowded, can I go start at the other corner? Okay, if that corner's crowded too, okay, what do I usually do at short side? Can I start there? So that we're practicing how to actually apply this stuff and move around the floor. If you're competitive, really, really urge you to have at least 2 starting points that you've rehearsed and you're comfortable with. So if it doesn't work out, you have a place where you can go and you can dance your fullest and your best instead of crowding into the corner with everyone else. So you just want to be able to use the space, spread your wings, you know, work your action, do whatever you need to do instead of being kind of held down and bound by this is the step I know or the routine I know, right? Just challenge yourself to think of it. A routine is still just steps. So again, where's that point where I can piece it apart? Okay, which step can have a opening for me? Cool. All right, so we had lots of bingos. Did anybody else get them as we went on those last couple? I saw a little nod from someone. No? Okay. Well, I'll have to get creative and see if I can think of something fun to send or email or bring for you next semester whenever we're all back in person. Does anyone have any burning questions before we wrap up? I'm sorry I'm a little late, but if there's anything anyone really wants to ask, I'm happy to stay.
To say that I put the link to the Netflix party in that, so anyone who's going to ballroom movie night after this, I'm excited for this episode of Baby Ballroom on Netflix. It looks really fun. Just started season 2, so not much has gone on yet, but it should be fun. Start soon. I've delayed it for people who are in this lesson too, in case you want to.
Cool, thank you. All right, and I think Kai, do you want to talk a little bit about next semester and what's coming up for us?
Yeah, so I'm super excited for next semester. Before we get into that, thank you again, Lisa, so much for all of your hard work this semester, and for being so willing to adapt to, well, a rather unique semester.
Yeah.
And yeah, so next semester, we're going to be switching things up quite a bit. By instead of having big group classes, we're going to switch to having smaller pod classes so that you and around 5 or 6 other people are going to be in sort of your own little pod. And you'll actually get time to work with Lisa and or Kate privately, so that we can all sort of make the best use of this time that we can and really try to improve our solo dancing. So it's going to end up being kind of like our own miniature little formation teams. So I'm super excited about it. And there will be an email coming out with some more details about that and sort of how to sign up very soon. So yeah, and otherwise we have our final comm team lesson tomorrow. And then on Saturday we've got arts and crafts. So that's pretty much it.
Cool. Yeah, and I see Ames threw up their choreography too. So I guess for my pods, that's what I'm super excited and like totally geeking out about is we'll hopefully get to kind of put you into some groupings of things that you're interested in too. So whether it's a dance or topic, that's, you know, probably thinking ahead, but just would be a really great way to kind of help everybody max out and do some really fun choreography and have a good time with it too. So
Yeah,
I think that's the goal, is like not making it feel like another class you have to go to, but just a time where we can get more interactive and have a little bit more fun and freedom with it too while we're still learning.
awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Kai, what time was the arts and crafts?
At 2 p.m.